Right, Moss, we've been together 20 years. It was fun in the beginning, but over the last 10 years, you've really irked me, and now I can no longer tolerate you. So it's time to go. I want a divorce. Right, so it's 2 weeks since we were last here. You can see behind me now it's nice and dark and black. What we're going to do today, we're going to get the scarifier out and we're just going to give it a quick once over just to get rid of some of that dead moss so we can reapply some more iron, as we've just started to see a little bit of regeneration. So I've got my scarifier over there, I'm going to go and get it and let's do it. So before I start the scarifier up, just wanted to show you close up. So we've got some good black moss there. But you can see just like in places like that, it's just started to regenerate. So we want to start getting that out and revealing the moss lower down, which might not have been affected by the iron just because it's so thick. So we're going to go over it with the scarifier and start the process. Now this job is for those here who have got a low / no budget. We're going to be totally reliant on rainwater on this job. There's going to be no auxiliary watering, if you like. We're going to be able to repair this ribbon, which you can see better now. And this is where the mower goes over it all the time in one direction. You know, I'm guilty of that, just mowing the same way every week. And you get the ribbon, you get this like bump, 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 bump. And that's because the vibrations of the mower send the soil particles all together, and that's what happens there. So we're going to sort that out in a later video. You see here, we've got a buttercup, which is slowly being affected by the weed killer. So you see all the leaves have curled up. So that's good, so that'll get whipped out today as well. But whatever's left, the weed killer will still be in its system, so that it will just die off. You're always going to get regeneration of weeds because, you know, the seeds that have dropped over the years are still in there. So, you know, it takes 7 years to get rid of a weed. So we could have our work out with this one. So let's get the scarifier out. There it is for the first time this year. Ye old faithful. Let's get on with it. Right, so we're just about to start the scarifying. We're not looking to go too deep today. We just want to remove the moss that's already been blackened. So when we put the next bit of moss control on, we're going to get down to that lower section. We might not need to, but because it's so thick, I think we will have to put another application on. Regards to scarifier, just pulled out of the shed. Well, I lie actually. It was under a blue sheet in the garden. It's got a bit of water on it, a bit rusty, but I think it's going to serve as well today. I've not started it yet, so this is the first time I'm going to start it live on air. Fingers crossed, see how it goes. Bit of choke, bit of a pull. Whee! We're in business. Good to go. Okay, so my pole cord just snapped on my scarifier. So luckily I just got near the top, so it's not end of the world. So I'll get that repaired this week. So just have a closer look at what we've done. Just take my gloves off. So clear it up. So we cleared a lot of the dead moss. Got some thatch out and some grass. But you see we're just at the bottom of the, we've still got green moss, so we will go over again with that second application. It's just started raining, just in time. The good thing about doing moss at this time of year when it's wet is that when it's windy, it doesn't blow away. But when we give it the proper scarify, once it's dried up a bit, moss really does come out a lot easier when it's really dry. And then that's when you get the like all the bulk of the moss out, and you start filling ton bags in because there's loads of air in it. But when it's wet, it compacts really easy. So we can get this in bin bags, and I'll dispose of that at the recycling plant. As soon as you mention recycling, everybody goes, "Ooh, good lad." So that's what we'll do. Quite a lot of stuff come up. First one in 20 odd years. I've never done it, and I don't think it was ever done before. So definitely 23 years it's not been scarified for. But not as much as I thought had come up, which is interesting. But again, we're still going to do it a few more times, but we'll do it properly in a couple of, probably four weeks, something like that, before when the season gets going. So I'll get my new rake out. I've got a new rake to show you. Got it from B&Q, a Magnuson one, and it's pretty decent. Not as big as the Fiskars one, but it's a lot sturdier. So you feel like you're really getting in and really giving the surface a good rake as well, which is almost like a scarifier itself. So I'll show you that in a sec. So I'll get it and then we'll start raking up just before the rain really does start kicking in. Right, so I'm just on the finishing straight now. This is the Magnuson rake, a bit shorter that way than the Fiskars one, as I said earlier. I've slightly damaged it in the van, I think. I think it's been leaned against something and it's warped it a little bit, so you wouldn't buy it like that. But this is what happens when you just lob things in your van like I do. Basically, you don't care for your tools, which is what I don't. Should do really, but it's one of my character flaws there, unfortunately. So it's really good, really get some good downforce with it and almost, you know, get some of these areas which have the moss reduced. Like around a road sign, it's very difficult to scarify because obviously you can't put your machine through that because it will get stuck on that. But you can give it a bit of a sideways hit and get rid of some of the moss that way and get it out. And most of all, remember, it's a bingo wing-free zone. So that's why we use the rake as well. And to get that match fitness up for the season ahead, it's hard work at first, but when you've done like 30 gardens by the end of the spring, you're quite fit after it. So next job, we'll get this picked up and put in the bags. Right, so how we're looking. See now, we've really opened up that soil. Whereas before we couldn't see any soil. Whereas now we're beginning to expose that surface, ready for some remedial work in the spring. So I'm feeling, even though the rain's coming down and it's cold, I feel like spring is just around the corner. It's March next week, and this is just the start. So I'll just show you something that I've discovered, which I kind of knew was here, but I'd forgot about. You can't really see it maybe from that angle, but a bit of a dip there. It'll be probably 6 inches deep, that. So we'll repair that. And you could think, oh, just throw a load of soil on and then reseed it, but you just have a nice circle of lovely grass. What we'll do is we'll dig that turf out, we'll fill that up, and then we'll replace the turf on top, and then it's existing turf, and you'll now know it was there. And then with this ribbing, we'll have to just fill in the hollows on that and screed it with the back of the rake level, and that'll be an easy fix for that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to mix another tank of iron, but this time I'm going to put a full dose with it of Galactic Green, and this is going to give us a bit more moss control in there, but it's also going to give us a nice hit of nitrogen, which will get the grass growing. And as the spring appears and the warm weather's come, the quicker we can get that grass growing on a lawn that we're not going to be reseeding, the moss can start to reseed, in terms of reseed like the hairline, not reseed as in throwing seed on it. And you'd be amazed how quickly a lawn that is once full of moss, and once you get the grass growing properly, the moss can't compete, so the grass thrives and takes over and the moss just disappears. And if you keep putting the regular applications of iron on, even when you've not got the moss, it just keeps it at bay. So you can eradicate moss over time, and then when we get this lawn divorced, we can absolutely say it's the decree absolute rid of moss. So I'm not going to mow it because it's a bit wet underfoot and there's no need. What I'll end up doing is I'll just end up closing up all those channels that we've created, areas that the wind can blow through, and this is going to be a form of aeration, and the moss really won't like that either. So time to mix that tank and then get it sprayed on, and then it's home time. Right, so that's it, done for this week. We're going to let that iron do its work on the moss, and then we certainly won't be touching this in terms of getting anything going for another few weeks yet, until the spring arrives. Next job here is we're going to get the edging tool out and give these edges a nice trim. They've never been done, but we want to get it nice and spot on. So I'll show you how to do that in another video next time. But have a go yourself. There's nothing I've done today that you can't do. Nothing that needs a license or anything like that. Yeah, you might have to hire a scarifier, but I've been surprised at how many tools people have got. So most people have some form of scarifier in the shed, and most people have a springbok rake, which is a usable tool as well if you haven't got any of those other items. So, hope you've enjoyed this one. See you next time.